Picture this. You're sitting at a really nice dinner table with friends, the food is incredible, the vibe is just perfect, and then suddenly the conversation takes a terrifying turn. One friend casually mentions their solid ETF allocation, but, complains about the APR on their margin. Another friend, let's call him Marcus, nods thoughtfully and says, "Oh, totally. And with inflation hitting net worth, Roth IRA contributions feel way safer than a 401k right now." And you're just sitting there, smiling, nodding, and desperately hoping nobody asks for your opinion. This is our guy Kevin, who, right after that exact dinner party exchange, confessed that he understood absolutely none of that. Not one single word. He described himself just nodding along like a bobblehead with anxiety. Listen, we are instantly throwing out the shame of financial imposter syndrome today, because here is the raw truth. School taught us the Pythagorean theorem, but life asked us about our credit score. So today, in this explainer, we are decoding the 12 finance terms you're secretly Googling under the table. Okay, let's dive right into section 1, plastic, scores, and hidden costs. First up, we have a lightning-fast contrast between a credit card and a credit score. So many folks think these are basically the same thing, but they absolutely are not. Think of the credit card as the car. It's just a tool. The credit score, that is your driving record. It's literally a financial report card, judging exactly how recklessly you drive that plastic car. It tracks if you pay on time, if you're maxing out your limits, or if you're taking on way too many loans. And the stakes here are high, right? Banks, landlords, even employers check this driving record before they decide to trust you. Now let's look at debit versus credit. You swipe them the exact same way at the register, but the reality behind that swipe is totally different. A debit card is your actual money. When it's gone, it's gone. A credit card is you temporarily spending the bank's money. And look, used responsibly, it's a great tool. But the psychological trap is fascinating. Our friend Tiffany uses credit cards because, as she jokes, the bill is future Tiffany's problem. Credit cards were brilliantly designed to create emotional distance from your spending. They let you feel rich temporarily, and then they bill you for the feeling later. Moving on to term 3, interest rate versus APR. You've probably seen these on loan documents and just signed anyway to get it over with, right? Well, here's your secret decoder ring. The interest rate is just the advertised price of borrowing money. It's kind of like an airline advertising a ridiculously cheap $30 ticket. But the APR, the annual percentage rate, is the true cost. It includes the mandatory fees, the extra charges, and all that fine print. To use that airline analogy, the APR includes the fee for the seat, the fee for your bag, and the fee for the oxygen you breathe on the plane. Always, always look at the APR. Why? Because of a number as unbelievably small as 2%. It sounds so insignificant, doesn't it? But a tiny 2% difference between an advertised interest rate and the actual APR can silently eat thousands and thousands of dollars over the lifetime of a loan. Banks are businesses, and that little 2% is exactly how they quietly profit off our confusion. Which brings us to section 2, unlocking the stock market. Let's decode the stock market using the most universal language on earth, food. A stock is ownership in one single company. In food terms, it's one taco. If that taco is bad, your entire lunch is ruined. Now, a mutual fund is a basket of investments managed by a professional. So it's a curated buffet someone else made for you. And an ETF, an exchange-traded fund, is the exact same idea. It's a buffet, but you can trade it instantly like a stock, and it's usually cheaper. This is exactly why long-term investors prefer the ETF buffet. They don't want to gamble their entire financial future on a single taco. A taco is a gamble. A buffet is a strategy. Next up, bull market versus bear market. Finance people clearly love animals, but the memory trick here is all about how they attack. A bull attacks by thrusting its horns upward. So prices go up, everyone's posting their gains, and acting like a total financial genius. A bear attacks by swiping its paws downward. Prices go down, and suddenly everyone becomes a very spiritual long-term thinker. As Tiffany joked, a bear market is basically community through financial pain. It's the economy humbling everybody at the exact same time. Let's move to section 3, surviving the big economy. Time to clarify revenue versus profit. You see a headline that says a company made $50 million in revenue, and you immediately think, wow, they are rich. Well, not necessarily. Revenue is just all the money coming in. It's a vanity metric. Profit is what's left after you subtract the salaries, the rent, taxes, and debt. Profit is survival. A company with massive revenue can actually be like a duck on a pond. On the surface, it looks incredibly calm and majestic, but underneath the water, it is paddling desperately just to keep from drowning, holding on to a tiny 1% sliver of actual profit. Then we have inflation versus recession. People use these interchangeably all the time, but they are very different beasts. Inflation is, quite simply, prices rising. It's when your grocery bill becomes completely disrespectful. A recession is an economic slowdown. It's when companies panic, GDP shrinks, and jobs disappear. And when they happen together, that's stagflation, which is basically life selecting hard mode.
The sneaky thing about inflation is that $100 today buys a whole lot less than $100 did 5 years ago. You might think your money is perfectly safe just sitting there in a savings account, but inflation acts like invisible termites with accounting degrees. It just quietly, constantly nibbles away at the purchasing power of your supposedly safe cash.
So let's see how this builds in Section 4, Assets, Liabilities, and Net Worth. We've been completely conditioned to think a high salary equals being rich, but your salary is just what you earn. It's a number that looks really impressive on LinkedIn. Net worth is what you own minus what you owe. You could earn $300,000 a year, but if your massive mortgage, car loans, and luxury lifestyle eat absolutely all of it, your net worth could actually be negative. Net worth is the true, undeniable metric that determines your actual financial freedom. So how do you actually build that net worth? By understanding assets versus liabilities. Let's define this surgically. An asset puts money into your pocket. Think of a rental property generating income. A liability takes money out of your pocket. The tricky part here is that modern society constantly, aggressively markets depreciating liabilities like massively expensive luxury cars as status symbols. We are sold liabilities disguised as success. Which brings us to a truly profound realization from Kevin. He said, "The most expensive thing I own is my effort to look like I own things." Think about that for a second. That is the emotional core of financial stress for so many people. We spend our actual wealth trying to project the illusion of wealth to people we don't even know. Once you realize the fundamental difference between an asset and a liability, this illusion completely shatters. All right, picking the energy back up for Section 5, keeping what you earn. Term 10, 401k versus Roth IRA. These words alone make a lot of people feel like they are actively failing at adulthood. But we can simplify this entire retirement dilemma down to one single choice. Do you want to pay taxes now or pay taxes later? With a 401k, you put in pre-tax money and pay taxes later when you retire. With a Roth IRA, you pay taxes now on the money you put in, but your withdrawals later are generally tax-free. But here is the absolute most important takeaway. Both accounts use the magic of compound interest. Do not let the choice paralyze you. Time in the game beats timing the game. Starting early matters infinitely more than starting perfectly. Now let's look at a universal, shared trauma. Gross pay versus net pay. Let's just have a quick moment of silence for the shock of seeing your very first paycheck. You saw that gross pay number on your offer letter and felt rich. Then you saw the net pay, what actually reached your bank account after taxes, insurance, and retirement, and felt personally attacked. Gross salary impresses people at parties. Net salary decides whether you can afford to order the extra guacamole. And our final set of terms. Saving versus investing. You absolutely cannot confuse these two. Saving is about protecting your money. It provides short-term peace of mind and an emergency fund for when life inevitably goes wrong. But investing is about growing your money. Investing is not optional. It is absolutely mandatory for long-term wealth building. Because remember, those invisible termites? In many economies, the annual inflation rate that is secretly eating your uninvested cash hovers around 6 to 7%. That proves that doing absolutely nothing with your money is technically a slow, guaranteed loss. You invest not to buy a Lamborghini tomorrow, but to buy your future freedom. Future freedom costs money, and that requires present discipline. So the crucial point is this. The goal of this explainer wasn't to make you perfect with money instantly. The goal is to stop you from being confused by it, because confused people make really, really expensive decisions. But now that we've decoded the jargon, there's one massive reality looming over all of our assets, our net worth, and our paychecks. What happens when the government gets paid first? That terrifying reality brings us to our next topic, taxes. It's going to be a wild ride, so make sure you join us next time as we dive into why the government has been watching your money this entire time.